Hey guys, it's Frank Spear back with you for another video today on the lake of fire. Now, many people have grossly misunderstood the lake of fire, as I myself had for so many years. People view it as hell, where the devil is tormenting people forever. Ungodly people, when they die, they're going to go to this place of burning pitch and fire and brimstone, and this angelic creature who rebelled against God, who fell out of heaven millennia ago with his angels that went with him. A third of the angels of heaven fell with him, and they became demons, and they're living in this nether world where it's burning with fire eternally, and people are going to die and go there and be tormented, Dante's Inferno and all the rest of it. This is just a misunderstanding of ancient Hebraic apocalyptic type symbolic metaphoric language. If you were to take the Bible and read through it from Genesis to Revelation over and again and over and again and over and again, all of this would begin to become clear without even having to read any other books, commentaries trying to explain it. You would see how the symbolic language was being used. Okay? We're going to start in Isaiah chapter 34. And we're going to jump over to Revelation after that, and maybe jump over to Deuteronomy for a minute. And we're going to see exactly what this lake of fire in the book of Revelation was really talking about. I have a book on the demons. It's called Cast Them Out, Who Were the Biblical Demons. If you like what you hear today, you can order the book from Amazon.com. I'll put the link down below. Not what you think they are. Not what you've been told they are. The devil, not what you've been told he is. Okay, but that's not what this video is about. This video is about the lake of fire. So here we're reading in Isaiah chapter 34 about the destruction of a city in 583 BC. So a long time ago. This ancient city called Basra, which was a city of the Edomite peoples. The Edomite peoples were descendants of the man Esau, who was the brother of Jacob, who became the father of the 12 tribes of Israel. Jacob and Israel didn't get along as brothers, and now here they weren't getting along as nations. And God was about to bring an army to destroy the Edomite city of Basra because they had been persecuting his people, the descendants of Jacob, the Israelites. That's the context here. Okay, so let's begin reading. Draw near, O nations, hear and listen, O peoples. Let the earth or the land and all that it contains hear, and all the world that springs from this land, the peoples living at the time in this geographical location. Hear the word of God that's coming, prophesying, predicting the destruction of this city. For the Lord's wrath is against all the nations, and his indignation against their armies. So this is the language of war. He has utterly destroyed them. This is prophetic, so it's seeing it as finished. Right? Watch this. Sometimes it sees it as finished, sometimes it sees it as coming, but the point is it's certain because God is predicting it. He has utterly destroyed them. He has given them over to slaughter. So their slain people will be thrown out, right? Cast out of the land. And their corpses, their dead bodies, will give forth a stench. Not a pretty picture here. A lot of dead people. And the mountains will be drenched with their blood. Now, of course, this is not literal in the sense that entire mountains surrounding that city were going to be dripping with their blood. The point is there's going to be war, and it's going to be devastating, and a lot of people are going to die. Right? This is that type of apocalyptic, exaggerated, hyperbolic language. Here we go, verse 4. And all the host of heaven will wear away. Well, this is not literal language, right? The armies, that's the word host, is armies. All the armies of heaven will wear away, disappear, be destroyed. Well, this language is used in the New Testament too for the destruction of Jerusalem because they had become apostate in the eyes of God, ungodly. And he was going to destroy them in the same way that he was about to destroy Basra here 583 years beforehand. Now watch this. All the hosts of heaven will wear away, and the sky will be rolled up like a scroll, and all their armies will also wither away, just like a leaf withers on the vine, just like a leaf withers on the fig tree. Okay? So the hosts of heaven were their rulers, were their leaders in heavenly places because they were above the people, right? They were the kings, they were the rulers, they were the noblemen, and the peoples were below them in this city of Edom, right? And so they were about to, those leaders in the heavens were about to be rolled up. The sky was about to roll up and go away, like a leaf withers and falls off a tree. Okay, here we go, verse 5. Now God, this is God speaking through the prophet Isaiah, a man called Isaiah. Watch what he says. God says, "For my sword is satiated with their blood in heaven." Now let me ask you this. In 583 BC, when God brought this city down, does God have a literal, actual, physical steel sword in his hand that he came down and stabbed and killed all these wicked people? Of course not. This is back to that language we talked about, okay? The Bible is infiltrated with this language. That's the wrong word. The Bible is permeated with this language. From cover to cover, you've got to get this language down before you'll ever understand the book. And once you understand this language, then you understand the lake of fire in Revelation. You understand the second coming of Christ and what it was. You'll understand Jesus coming in the clouds with his mighty angels and the sun and the moon and the stars going dark and all of that, and all about the blood and all that language in Revelation. The book of Revelation is quoting from these passages, saying something is about to go down in the New Testament era that was just like the things that went down in the Old Testament era. They were Hebrew prophets in the New Testament, quoting from the Hebrew prophets in the Old Testament. They're saying this is going to be like that. And there's plenty of that in the Old Testament. Watch this. Verse 5. "For my sword is satiated in heaven. Behold, my sword shall descend for judgment upon Edom." My sword is coming down, descending upon Edom for judgment. Jesus said when he would come down, when he would descend in his second coming, it would also be a war. That was figurative language for another war that was coming way later. That's what Jesus was talking about. He would return in a battle, a literal physical battle on planet Earth in the Middle East 2,000 years ago. Same thing that was happening here would be going on there. The second coming is not Jesus. We're not waiting for the second coming of Jesus to literally crack the sky and come riding down on a white horse in a literal sense and take over the earth. No. Jesus' coming happened long ago in this way, and it used this language, and that's why so many people are so confused about what the second coming meant. They don't know the book well enough. So get to know the book, and it will all come crystal clear. All right, watch this. "For my sword is satiated in heaven. Behold, it will come down for judgment upon Edom and upon the people whom I have devoted to destruction." So an army is coming against Edom. The Roman armies came against the apostate Jews in the book of Revelation. The beast. That's the Roman armies coming against the Jews who rejected their Messiah and destroyed their city, just like Basra, the city, was about to be destroyed here. And the second coming of Jesus was God coming with his sword from heaven in those Roman armies. The Roman armies were the sword of God as he used them to do his bidding, to destroy his enemies. Same thing here. These people, the Edomites, persecuted the people of God, okay, back in 583, the Jews from Jerusalem, and now Jerusalem in the first century AD had become the enemies of God because they slaughtered the followers of Messiah. They murdered the Messiah, then they murdered his followers, and they had become the enemies of God. And so Christ, God, the Son, was coming in judgment with his sword from heaven in the Roman armies. Same way here. Okay, verse 6. The sword of the Lord is filled with blood. It is satiated with fat, and the blood of lambs and goats, with the fat of the kidneys of rams. Now, I don't think this is talking about literal animals. It could be, and that's still okay. It doesn't change anything. Could be talking about their livestock, the way they made their money in those days. But I don't think so, because there's plenty of proof throughout the scriptures that God speaks very often of different people groups as animals. Okay, now watch this. Even when you're thinking about the horses in the book of Revelation, right? Famine was riding a horse, and death was riding a horse, and war was riding a horse. No literal horses. This is talking about judgments of God upon a particular people in a figurative way. Well, this is speaking about people in a figurative way, like much of the Bible does. I just did a whole video on trees. Make sure you watch that. Okay. Watch this now. Continuing on in verse 6. Okay, let me read again because this is important. The sword of the Lord is filled with blood. It is satiated with fat, and with the blood of goats, and with the fat of the kidneys of rams, because, here it comes, the Lord has a sacrifice in Basra. See? So the Old Testament sacrifices were literal animal sacrifices. That's how they worshiped God. But here it says that God is going to slaughter these animals because the Lord has a sacrifice he needs to make in Basra. So I believe it's the destruction of those people. Okay, watch this. He has a sacrifice that he's about to make in Basra, and a great slaughter in the land of Edom. Wild oxen will fall. Young bulls with strong ones will fall, and their land will be soaked with blood, and their dust will become greasy with fat. For the Lord has a day of vengeance. Here it comes. Hold on. Lake of fire stuff coming up. For the Lord has a day of vengeance, revenge upon Edom for what they were doing to his people. Okay? A payback for the cause of my people Zion, the Jews. Watch this. Here we go. Basra's streams will be turned into burning pitch, tar, and its loose earth into fire and brimstone. And its land will become burning pitch, going to be set on fire. That's how they destroyed cities in those days. They burned them to the ground. That's what happened with the Romans in the first century with Jerusalem and Judea and their temple system. They burned it to the ground, literally razed the whole city to the ground. R-A-I-Z-E-D, razed it to the ground, leveled it. Watch this. Its land will become a burning pitch. Here we go, verse 10. And its fire will not be quenched night or day. Its smoke will go up forever. From generation to generation, it will be desolate. Basra. None will pass through it forever and ever. Well, is that true? Where was that city located today? That land isn't still burning. It didn't burn forever and ever. It says here, it will not be quenched day or night, and its smoke will go up forever and ever. Well, the smoke isn't still going up today where Basra was, is it? Of course not. This is figurative language, hyperbolic language. Now, maybe the city of Basra itself never came back, and so in that sense, it was destroyed forever. But the Edomite peoples weren't destroyed forever at this time, and the smoke is not still going up, and the fire is not still burning. This is saying that this would be something they would remember forever. right? That God destroyed them. And this would go down in history. We're still talking about it today, right? 2,583 years later, we're still talking about it. So the remembrance of its destruction, because they rebelled, they sinned against God. They did evil in the sight of God. Let's put it that way. And we're still talking about it. Okay? Now remember, look at this. Back up here again for a second to verse 6. He says, I'm going to kill all these animals because I have a sacrifice awaiting me in that city. What happened when you burned sacrifices? When all these people were burned? Smoke went up. Smoke went up. And so I believe that's what this is referring to down here in verse 10. The fire will not be quenched day or night, and its smoke will go up forever. That word forever there in the original Hebrew means for a long time, simply. For an age. For a long period of time. From generation to generation, watch this, it will be desolate. It will be desolate, that land. It will never be what it was again. Now, we could finish the chapter, but no need. Now, flip over to Revelation chapter 14. Here we go. Revelation chapter 14. Speaking of the destruction of first century Jerusalem with its temple system, the land of the Jews, the land of Judea and that surrounding area was destroyed by the Romans and burned. This is what Revelation chapter 14 is speaking about. Watch this. And it's doing it in symbolic language. Verse 9. Then another angel, a third one, followed them, saying with a loud voice, if anyone worships the beast and his image, that's Rome and their emperor, their Caesar. If anyone they worshipped Caesar, emperor of the Roman peoples, as God. Caesar was worshipped as a god. And the vision here is saying, if any of my people, God's people, the Israelites, worshipped Caesar as God, which many of them did, then they were going to be destroyed. Watch this. If anyone worships the beast and his image and receives the mark on his forehead or on his hand. Now, in the Old Testament, the people of God were said to have God's mark on their forehead. Right? This is symbolic as well, signifying they were the people of God. God said, I marked you on your foreheads as mine. So here, this is a reference to that. The Israelite peoples understood what this vision meant. If anyone took the mark of the beast, okay, and received the mark on their forehead or on their hand. This is a reference back to Old Testament scriptures. If anyone becomes the people of Caesar. There's much more to say about that, but this is about the lake of fire today. Watch this. He will also, that person, will also drink of the wine of the wrath of God. There's the word wrath again that was coming that we just read in Isaiah 37 or 34, which is mixed in the full strength in the cup of God's anger, indignation, like we just read. Watch this. And that person who does not follow Christ, but who follows Caesar in the sense that this meant that, and that's for another video. All right. Whoever follows Caesar takes the mark of the beast. Ready? He will be tormented with fire and brimstone. The city was going to be burned. Watch this. He will be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. The parousia of the Lamb. The parousia of the Lamb was the parousia of the angels, and the parousia of the angels was the coming of the Roman armies. So Christ was present in the Roman armies. God's sword came down from heaven, Isaiah, and slaughtered the enemies of God, who took the mark of the beast, Rome. And instead of worshiping God alone, they acquiesced to the Roman Caesar and did his bidding, thereby worshiping Caesar. Remember, they said in the New Testament, in the Gospels, the Jews said, we have no king but Caesar. No king of the Jews, no Messiah. Pilate said, Isn't this Jesus your king? Isn't he the king of the Jews? Isn't he your Messiah, your Savior? And they said, we have no king but Caesar. Wow. Here we go. Watch this. They would be burned with fire and brimstone in the presence, the coming of the Lamb with his holy angels. This is Matthew 24. Matthew 24. Let's look at it real quick. Look how Jesus describes his coming. And the sign of the Son of Man will appear in the heavens. And then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds with the clouds of the sky with power and great glory. So how is he going to come in power and great glory? He will send forth his angels with a great trumpet. That's war language. The war is going to begin. They blow the trumpet, and they will gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of the sky to the other. It's described in the same way. It's a language of war. Luke chapter 21. Jesus said, when you see the abomination of desolation taking place, he said to his followers, flee to the mountains, escape. Watch how Luke writes that. Verse 19 of Luke 21. Verse 20, sorry. But when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then recognize that her desolation is near. Then those who are in Judea at that time, the Holy Land, flee to the mountains. And those who are in the midst of the city, the Jerusalem, at that time, like Basra, 583 years beforehand, he says, when you see the army surrounding the city, leave. Get out of there. Because these are the days of vengeance. That's the coming of the Lord. It happened in the first century. Now, let's get to this lake of fire again. Back to Revelation 14. Watch this. And they will be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. That's the armies. And the smoke of their torment goes up forever and ever. That sounds like Basra. Did the smoke of Basra's torment literally go up forever and ever? Did they go to hell? Are they burning somewhere in the netherworld? No, this is talking about the destruction of a city. And that it would always be remembered that God slaughtered them like an animal sacrifice. God had a sacrifice in Basra, and they were burned, and the smoke went up forever and ever, for age upon age, for time after time. The smoke, we remember this sacrifice. Watch this. And they will have no rest day and night, those who worship the beast in his image, and whoever receives the mark of his name. No rest day and night. That's Isaiah 34. It said the same thing about Basra. Right? The smoke would go up day and night. Well, no rest day and night. That comes from Deuteronomy. We're going to end with this. Okay? Watch this. God is saying to Israel, as they just got started as a nation, listen, obey me or I will bring curses on you. I will have foreign nations come in if you disobey my commands, and I will have them conquer you and kill you and send you off into slavery, some of you, take you away into captivity, sell you off as slaves. Okay? Now watch this. This is the context here. Now look at verse 64 of Deuteronomy 29. Moreover, the Lord will scatter you among the peoples, the other nations, from one end of the land to the other end of the land. And there you will serve other gods. You're going to go into idolatry, into heathenhood, if you will. That's why in the New Testament, they're called the Gentiles. The scattered Israelites were called the Gentiles because they were like foreigners. They were no longer the people of God. They were serving other gods, many of them. That's why so much talk in Corinthians, Paul in 1st and 2nd Corinthians, about these people coming into the new kingdom of God as it was arriving. He's talking to them, dealing with them about what they were to do about their idolatry. They were Israelites come home who had been worshiping other gods in foreign lands. Watch this, because God had punished them. God had divorced those 10 tribes. Watch this. And there you will serve other gods of wood and stone, which you or your fathers have not known before. Here we go. And among those nations that take you captive away from your holy land, even Rome, who came in and occupied the holy land at the time of Jesus, right? They were like an idol in the land. They worshiped Caesar as God. They worshiped the sun and the moon and the stars literally as other gods also. And they were occupying the holy land. So there was idolatry in the land because Israel had sinned against God. So you had the scattered northern tribes living among pagan heathen peoples, worshiping false idols. And you had false idols, if you will, the Romans, Imperial Rome, occupying the land of the Jews, who were not the scattered tribes. God was still married to Judah, and yet they were infiltrated by pagans. So there was idolatry outside the land and idolatry inside the land, and some were worshiping Caesar as God too. Okay, watch this. And among those nations, here it comes, you will find no rest. There will be no resting place for the sole of your feet. But there the Lord will give you a trembling heart, failing eyes, and despair. So your life shall hang in doubt before you, and you will be in dread day and night. No rest day and night, and you will have no assurance of your life. What happened when the Roman armies destroyed Jerusalem? They also took many of the younger men captive and the younger women and the children and sold them off into slavery to foreign nations. And that's why Revelation chapter 14 says that they would burn in a lake of fire, and then the rest would have no rest day and night. They would be sold off into slavery. Same language. Folks, this is the language of war and desolation, just like we see all throughout the Old Testament. This is not talking about an eternal lake of fire, a literal place where people who don't worship the God of the Bible go and burn forever with a devil being there. No. And I'll have videos coming up very soon on who the devil was, who Satan was. Thank you guys for listening today. I hope that made a lot of sense to you. If you like it, thumbs up. If not, thumbs down. I'll see you guys next time. I'll put a link to my book about demons below. Thank you.